Call the meeting to order. Let's see, it is Tuesday, January 22nd, 2019, and the time is, looks like 10 o'clock straight up, so we're actually going to start on time. Welcome, everyone, to this meeting of the Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation Architectural Barriers Advisory Committee. Thank you for being here today. We look forward to the things that we have to discuss here, and I think some exciting things definitely are going on in the department. So we look forward to the meeting today. Very first thing that we need to do is to make sure that we do have a quorum. So we will have a call of order. And so first of all, Philip Pierce, and I'm present. Mike Olson.
Here.
Jim Durham.
Present.
John Rickard.
Here.
Brian Sargent.
Here.
Rob Roy Purnell.
Here.
Ron Menard.
Here.
Kathy Ann Riley is not here. She's ill. And Mike McDonald.
Here.
All right. We do have a quorum. Okay, the second order of business that we have then is approval of the minutes from the last meeting. Those have been passed out to everyone, and they're also on your screen. And if you'll scroll up, you may want to take just a minute to kind of look those over, and then we will ask for a motion to pass them. By the way, I was warned to be sure and have everyone announce who they are when they make motions and when you second it, so that it can be recorded accurately. So, and also whenever you speak generally. And by the way, I'm Philip Pierce. I'm the worst about doing that, so I apologize in advance. Yes, sir.
John Rickard, move approval of minutes.
Jim Durham, I second that motion.
All right. The motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes from the last meeting. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, so we've got the housekeeping out of the way. So the next thing is to invite any people who have signed up for public comment. Do we have anyone that has signed up to make public comment? Okay, then we will move on from there. The staff reports. First off with the licensing division. Welcome.
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. I am Jacqueline Rollins on behalf of Chloe Whalen. I'm here with the licensing statistic reports. You have that report in front of you. Wondering if you had any questions regarding that. If there are no questions, I just have one update. We have updated the renewal notice for the RES to report self-reporting hours. They can enter the hours and date completed. Okay, if you have any questions on that.
Okay. Anyone?
Yes,
Jim
sir.
Durham, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
The 2019 licenses, do you expect that number to be in the upper 30s?
Yes, sir. I do.
Again,
Yes,
by
sir.
the end
I
of the
do.
year?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay.
We're getting those applications in slowly. But
Well,
they're coming in.
it seems like the classes are always full.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, sir. They're full, and as like I said, applications are coming in. We're getting them processed as soon as we can.
Very good.
Mhm.
Anybody else? All right. Thank
All
you
right,
for your report.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Customer Service Division.
Good morning, board members. Misty Maldonado de Leon. I'm the customer service manager for this program. As you can see in the statistics, this program prefers phone calls. A lot of the emails do go directly to the team in RPM, and I'm sure Marcia will give you more information on that. But I just wanted to announce that the best times to call are 7 a.m. to 8 a.m. and then 5 to 6. Those are the least busy times during the day, Monday through Friday. We also offer help at email while they're waiting. They do have a callback feature as well, so just to be sure that they're aware of that for when they're calling in. Do you have any questions?
All right, Philip Pierce, I think last time we had a little bit of a discussion about whether or not it was better to phone call or email. Did you just say that you prefer phone calls?
Well, the emails give us a little more time, and we submit the response in writing. It's a lot more research involved in that, so we have more time to do that. But, I mean, phone calls as well. I mean, it's okay for them to make a phone call. However, we have been experiencing larger than normal wait times, so we'd prefer emails.
Okay.
But we
so-
do see that they prefer phone calls, yeah.
Yeah, so
That's
you-
okay.
You prefer that they email if possible?
Yes, it just gives us more time.
Yeah,
Mhm.
okay. And to give them a more thorough
Right.
answer?
Right.
Okay. All
Any
right.
other questions?
Thank you for your report.
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, the Enforcement Division.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Robin Glassner, and I am the new enforcement prosecutor for this EAB board. We currently have 3 prosecutors that are assigned to what we call the building mechanical team. So that includes ACR, or air conditioning and refrigeration contracting, the electrical, this program, industrial housing builders. We work about 8 or 9 programs, so that's why it's going to take me a while to rattle all of these off. But EAB is part of these programs, so I am one of the prosecutors that works these cases. We had a little bit of reshuffling, so I am the new prosecutor assigned to this board. Dawn is no longer with the agency. We did have another prosecutor join our team. His name is Robert Reyes, and he is my backup for right now. And we just hired 2 additional attorneys. They are attorney 3s, so they work inspection-based cases. I believe one of them will be working missed EAB inspection cases once they get trained up. So we do now have another attorney that will probably be looking over cases that have to deal with you guys.
And Robin, excuse me, Carla James, TDLR. When you're saying new, I don't want to give the impression that you're a new attorney, so would you just let the board
Okay.
know how long that you've been practicing law? I don't want to give the impression that she's straight out of law school, despite how good she looks.
I've been with the agency for 4 years. I've been working these particular programs for the past year and about 3 months. So I'm not quite as versed in this one as in these particular programs as I am in other ones, but I've been working them for at least the past year. So I'm not new to the agency. I'm not a brand new attorney. And the new attorneys that we just hired are not new attorneys either. They're experienced attorneys. They're just coming in at a lower level than I am right now. But they are not new to practice either. Let me make sure I got everything. So the case highlights that you have before you are from 33 orders that were entered before the last meeting. I'm sorry, that were entered after the last meeting that you guys had. Most of the cases that appeared were almost all from missing an inspection within 1 year of construction. So that is how the first 3 cases and the last 3 cases were all from failing to schedule an inspection within 1 year of construction completion. The only case that is the outlier is the case number 4 for failing to meet the requirements for placement of accessible parking signs. The first or the last 4 cases were all agreed orders, and the penalty payments have been paid in full. The first case was entered as a default order, meaning that nobody responded to the notice of alleged violation that was filed. Therefore, the department went ahead and moved for a default order, meaning that the full penalty was assessed, and there has been no penalty received on that case. The number of cases opened so far for fiscal year 2019 have been 48. Number of cases resolved is 70. The reason for the discrepancy is that sometimes moving from one fiscal year to the next, we carry over cases that maybe we were working on or were open at the very end of the prior fiscal year. So we still are working on them when we get to the next fiscal year. So that's the only reason why there is probably a discrepancy. The number of agreed orders that have been entered in the program so far are 23. And if you look at the amount of penalties assessed versus collected for this program, we're actually doing pretty well. 32 assessed and about 28 collected. So the program is doing pretty well compared to other programs. And I can answer any questions you might have.
Brian Sargent, is there any mechanism for when this first case, when they maybe want to register again? If they're in arrears?
Since the respondent is not necessarily registered with us, it kind of depends upon how the case comes to us, whether or not we would be able to track it. Once a case gets entered, we would be able to see whether or not that particular respondent has additional history with us. So if we were, I believe this one was open as a result of cases coming to us from our RPM division for missed inspection. So if they were to miss another inspection, we would be able to see it once it gets entered into our licensing system. But if they were to file another project and it go through the system and they not have any problems, then we may not know about it just because our RPM division doesn't have access to the enforcement division's file management system. So it just kind of depends upon how it comes to us.
That's fine.
But we are trying to follow up with the respondent to collect the penalty. They are being sent notices. Any other questions?
That's all. Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Regulatory Program Management Division.
I believe we have education and examination first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, education examination. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to make you feel like I was skipping.
That's all right. I know you're just anxious for Marcia to get up here. That's no problem. So, good morning, Chairman and board members. My name is Lorraine Srofe, and I am with the Education and Examination Division. You have our report there. On the first page, we did provide you some information. We have started auditing CE providers, and you've been provided a list of those programs which we have started with. There have been 69 audits done since our auditor has started doing that auditing process. But on your report, you'll notice it says 25. That's for fiscal year 2019. So just wanted to point that out, that there was a slight discrepancy there because that had 18 and 19 numbers. We also have, if you'll notice on there, that there have not been any RAS courses audited yet, but they are on the schedule. We already have a provider on schedule to be audited that provides online courses, so that should be done in the next month or two. Also, you have the exam statistics provided for you for 2017 through 2019. And then on the final page, you have the continuing education courses, the numbers of approvals and total courses that we've had. And as you review through that, if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. Yes, Mr. Rickard.
John Rickard. So when you audit a course or a provider, what are you looking for in the audit?
It's a total compliance on the provider, whether or not they've provided the course that has correct information, especially if it's pertaining to law and rules or TAS standards. Then we also audit them if they've followed through on what they're required to do, as far as only offering courses that have been approved, that they stop offering courses once they've expired, that they've provided the continuing education certificate of approval, that they've kept the right records, that they've reported on a timely manner, all of those responsibilities that they have as a provider.
John Becker, so that does include auditing the course itself?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, they actually log in just as if they were a licensee taking the course.
Great, thanks very much.
You're welcome.
Okay, the exam was pretty rough on the
It
people in
was.
November, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a little bit higher fail rate there. We'll need to, of course, monitor that the next couple of quarters and see if that's something that the SMEs may need to look at.
The pass-fail percentage, is that, let's see, it runs, it's like in the past, it's run about 50%. Is that a-
50% has been the normal for the past couple of years, so this is a higher percentage rate, but as I said, we really would need to wait till we
Yeah.
had at least another quarter or two in there. And if that trend continues, then that might be something to cause for concern to look at.
Is that the pass-fail rate that you guys have decided that you want to have? Or is that higher or lower, or is it just the way it is?
We, of course, don't have a particular
Target?
Yeah, we don't have a target percentage rate. It is what it is. If 5 people take the test and all 5 fail, then that's, what happened. The exam did what it was supposed to do. But certain questions, of course, are looked at when the exam review committee comes together. And so they would probably single more in on certain questions just to make sure that there's not a confusing question, and compare that to individuals that have passed the exam, and to look and see whether or not they were able to answer that question in the same manner or not.
Good, very good.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Chairman, I have a question. Robert Ray Parnell. So we mentioned that there are currently 8 registered accessibility specialists, continuing education providers. Do we list those for the convenience?
On the website, you mean? We have the list of providers on the website. We also list out the courses that they have available and then their contact information. Currently, there's only 5 providers that actually have courses that they've submitted that are available at this time.
Okay, good.
Thank you.
Okay, now Regulatory Program Management Division.
Marcia Godo, RPM, or Regulatory Program Management, AB Division. One of the first things I wanted to draw attention to was our new hire, Jamie Hill. She's over in the corner. She's been working with us for support and training for over 4 years, and she's been a great asset so far. We probably abuse her English major training, but she's been great, and we welcome her. We've been doing some public outreach at our typical academies. We've had a couple of those, and our Governor's Committee meetings as well that Norman attends for us. And then, as y'all know, on December 3rd, TABS went live. We've had a couple of videos out for training, a little bit of videos, but we have some more training in person coming up in the next couple of weeks for our RASs. One of the other new things that we have on our report is email responses. Now, these are emails that come into TechInfo specifically, or that customer service has forwarded to us because it came to them and it's a technical question. So if you notice, we answer a lot of those. That takes up a lot of time. And I put that on there so that you could see the uptick when we get the next quarter for tabs. If you have any other questions on the report? Nothing? Okay.
All right, thank you. And the executive office.
That's me, Carla James, TDLR.
And welcome, by the way.
Thank you, appreciate that. It's my first EAB meeting. I say this to all the advisory boards the first time I meet you. Thank you for your commitment to Texas. I know how much you're not getting paid to do this. I think at your last meeting in August, you were probably given a briefing on the agency's strategic plan and the process that we use to do that. We have since turned in a biennial budget request as well, and much like the strategic plan, this is a 2-year budget that each agency is required to request prior to the legislative session, and we have done that. And we asked for a couple of extra items this time. First of which is a single licensing system. For those folks who don't work here, you don't know that we have 9 licensing systems hidden behind a big website. And it is a very difficult process for us to work all of those 9 systems, and I'll say that those systems do not play well together. So we have requested a small amount of authority for our budget to build a new system that will encompass all of those. And what we think will come from that is better customer service, speedier customer service, and faster licensing. I'm sure there are other benefits to it that we won't see until we get there, but we've requested that. And the other item that we have requested is some money for human trafficking. That is on the radar of the governor and the Attorney General. And I can tell by the looks on your faces, you're thinking, what in the world does TDLR have to do with human trafficking? And there's a couple smirks now, so I know I hit the target. We have an interesting dynamic at our agency in that we go in and do inspections in certain industries and see odd things when we go in. If we're inspecting a massage therapist or a nail salon or a cosmetology salon, we may see some odd things in there that law enforcement won't be able to see without a warrant. And so this human trafficking team will allow us to better and quickly report that information to local law enforcement. Please do not misunderstand what I'm saying. We are not going to be arresting people. That is not our role in this, but we can help coordinate it and get information to local law enforcement so they can take care of it. So we've requested monies for that. Currently, as it works, and I'm a budget dork, so if I get too deep in the weeds, say, hey, Carla, stop doing that, you're killing us. There are 2 bills filed at the beginning of session, one on the Senate side and one on the House side, and we have received tentative approval on the Senate side for these 2 exceptional items, so we're excited about the potential for that. Before I move on, are there any questions for that item? I think the blank stares are working well, so.
I have a question, Jim Durham. This human trafficking, are you like suggesting that we keep our eyes and ears open as we do inspections, or is
No,
it
I'm not
something-
suggesting that. What I would suggest to you is what the governor has said, is that every Texan should keep their eyes and ears open for anything odd that you've seen. The Attorney General's office has a video out on their website called Be the One, and it highlights a couple people who were just minding their own business, driving down the street and saw something odd. So we do not expect that of you. We expect that of our staff. But as a Texan, the governor has requested all of us to keep our eyes and ears open. I have a couple of other things. I have to put on my readers for this because it is way too small, and I have new readers, and everyone is excited about them. So, this is communication outreach statistics for the EAB program. Over the last 6 months, your page on the website has had over 113,000 views, and that's an average of 612 a day. 83% of those visitors looked at our website from a desktop computer, 11% from a smartphone, and 6% from a tablet, which is distinctly different from a lot of our other professions, and so that's why we give you these stats. A lot of our other professions are almost solely on iPhones. Excuse me, shouldn't say that. Cell phones. I don't even have an iPhone. So the top reasons for visiting this site was the standards, that's predominantly the reason why folks come and look. The rules, followed by the procedures, the academy, and then forms. So the biggest hit, of course, is the accessibility standards for basically almost constant viewing of that. And the last item I have is going to require someone to come sit at the table, a bit of a recognition and roasting, as it were.
So that takes us to item F, I think, as well, doesn't it?
Yes, if you're willing, sir, I'm moving on without.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
You remember.
Probably blushing already. Excellent. It's a reflection off of the red shirt.
That's it. That's it. So I wanted to take a quick moment to recognize the work that Bob has done for the agency and the AB program. I will sing a few praises, and then I will release the hounds on him and let you do as you will. He spent, more than 10 years in this program, and it's a program that's actually very near and dear to my heart. Both of my parents were disabled, and so I take great interest and a lot of pride in this program, and was glad that Bob was in this program for so long. You have his report, but I want to highlight a couple of the things that is in this report. He, of course, is a subject matter expert and has put in a huge amount of work in this area. He's seen as a resource on multiple levels, even at the national level. Of course, training was a big deal, and he played a substantial part in that. He took on the AB inspections when it got moved from another division, and that is something that we all appreciate. And as Marcia said earlier, tabs.
I'm sorry, I don't like his posture.
Continue, Carla.
Bob, I think that you just made it worse on yourself by opening your mouth. But tabs is a big deal to us, as it is to the industry, and Bob put a lot of work in on that. I know he put in a lot of work on that. I was a recipient of many of his calls, so I know this, good and bad, but we're so thrilled to have that program up and running, and not to diminish the work done by the folks who came after Bob. They have put in a huge amount of work as well. I'm just thrilled to have that up and running. So we wanted to thank Bob for a couple of minutes for all his work that he's done in this program and for TDLR. I stole him from this program last year when we did a calibration. I am versed in facilities management, but don't have the time to do that and my deputy executive director role. So Bob came over to work directly for me to do our facilities and our safety and security and all the things that happen behind the scenes that we take for granted. But I don't take that for granted, so it was important that I had somebody to do that. So I just ripped him right out of AB. And we have, obviously, great staff that took his place, but I really needed him in the role that he's in now. So it was a great opportunity for everybody in AB, and it was a great opportunity for me to get into some of the areas that we hadn't had a chance to do so before. So thank you, Bob.
Thank you.
Okay. We'll open it up to anyone else who would like to make comment. I have one, but I'll wait. Well, the thing that I've had opportunities to work with you for many years, and it's always been good. But the thing that always struck me about you, and I think that's one of the most complimentary things that I can say to you, is that when you were going to err, it was always going to be on the side of more accessibility and greater safety for persons with disabilities. And I don't know what else you could possibly ask for somebody in the role that you served. So from that standpoint, for all people with disabilities, I'd say thank you very much for your time, the effort, and for your heart.
Well,
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that very much.
I'll send my comments along privately.
I'll send mine out in public.
Oh, no.
Mike Olson. I've known Bob for a long time. The only thing that I have not figured out what TDLR can do is put the man in slacks.
This is,
And a button-up shirt.
There's a story beyond that. When I sit down and interview for this position, my demand was that if you're going to hire me, I don't wear slacks and I don't wear ties.
And he hasn't. It's all the years and I pick on him every time I see him, even when I call
You
him.
can't, this is the pot called the kettle black.
Oh, he knows. He knows for a fact. He's known me when I was a big guy. I've never tucked my shirt in, and I always wear a hat. It's just habit. It's lucky that it's not on right now.
John, you have?
John Rickard. So I've worked with and for a lot of agencies over time, and I consider this kind of a cultural thing that some agencies are just way more responsive than others. And Bob is probably as responsive as anybody I've ever worked with in 40 years. And that culture spreads to all of TDLR. This is one of my very favorite agencies and always has been, and that's a large reason for it, because people answer calls, they have good answers to questions, they are interested in what's going on, and a lot of that stems directly from Bob. And the people before him are good too. Dave Gonzalez is back there, I see, but Bob has been the poster child for great service of a state employee, and I just really appreciate that.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
So you didn't retire, you just
No,
went
I
somewhere else?
snatched him, yeah.
I got stolen.
Reshuffle.
Yeah.
That's all the kind words you're getting from now on, so. Don't come to my office anymore.
Yes, ma'am.
That's it, they covered it.
Yes, ma'am.
Still glad to have you, Bob.
I'll take a shot at it,
Now my palms are sweating.
Rob Roy Parnell, I've been in state service for now 29 years and worked with a lot of people in those years. And the thing I would comment about Bob is that he saw complexity in a lot of problems in the organization. I think after David had moved on and taken an advanced role in the management of the agency, Bob really made a difference. And I think the respect of those that are participating as RASs, to look at it more as a profession, treat it as a profession, enlighten it as the profession that it is today, and to always, as it's been echoed here to others, Bob, your phone rang constantly and usually followed with what? But behind that was, I think the real comment or the real response is, what is it that I can do to help you? And in the end, so grateful for your years of service and helping me helping you. Stamped a few drawings in the late night, trying to get last minute work, which I did oversee the work that was being done in my staff and with TDLR staff, with Bob just as a licensed architect, but trying to get things done at the very last minute in the fiscal year, trying to take every dollar between those calls between you and George Ferry, saying we need help. In return, I've said I need help, and you've always been there. And I'm grateful for
Thank
that
you.
in your years of service. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Can I go sit down now?
You are sitting down.
Huh?
You are sitting down. Do you have any comments, Bob?
Well, I tell you, this getting into this program, I first started in 2000, and it was something that I never saw coming. I don't have anyone in my family with a disability. The only time I ever heard about this type of program was on the federal level in the 90s. When I came to Texas, I was pleasantly surprised that they really had something active, and it was architecturally related, which is something that I've got a great deal of background in, and didn't realize when I took the job that I would be ending up as managing the program. But it's been a very beneficial thing for me to have to go through and accomplish. And the only thing is, I hope that now that I'm no longer the AB program manager, that I've left something on the table that people can take away and is beneficial. So thank you, guys.
Well, I can assure you that's been the case. So thank you. Thank you for your service, and good luck on your new role.
Thanks.
Excited. All right. The discussion about the technical memoranda process and possible changes for improvement. We like improvement.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
Good morning.
Committee members, for the record, Charles Johnson, Assistant General Counsel. As you're aware, the last several meetings there's been discussion about the technical memorandum process, and we committed in that last meeting to go back, review the rules, the statute, the practices, and to bring you back a recommendation we think will resolve these issues and be consistent and transparent in the process. What we have discovered is that historically there were rule changes. Some rules given the department authority, another rule given the commission authority, as to who would publish the standards, and all that was in variance with the statute. And so, without going into the weeds and the details, what we propose to do is to reconcile the rule with the practice. And the practice has been, as I understand it, the committee would set up a work group. The work group would go back, review the issues, make recommendations, and bring those recommendations back to the full committee. The committee would then review those recommendations and vote whether to send those on to the commission. What we propose to do is to keep that process in place, except for the commission piece. And the practice has been that the department has been approving those memorandums, and so we would want to change the rules to conform the rules to that process, where ultimately the committee reviews the work group's work, and the work group sends it on to the department, and the department approves those recommendations or not, and if they do approve them, then publish to the website without going to the commission. And so we don't have at this point any rule language to present to you, but if you, I guess, agree with the conceptually with the modifications to align the rule with the practice, we can do this either one or two ways. We can go ahead and start the internal process to get management, the executive management to agree with this rule change. If they do, we can propose language, publish the rule, and as opposed to bringing it back to you and delay that whole process. And so we would recommend that you allow us to propose these rule changes to the department, and with approval, start that rulemaking process so that your next meeting, we can bring you back a published rule for recommendation to the commission. And with that, if there are any questions, I'll be happy to try and answer them for you.
Could you just outline that step by step?
Say
Yes, sir.
Your name.
Brian Sargent wants to know if, I'll speak in third person. He wants to know the step by step. So step one is, step two is, et cetera.
Step one would be the issue has been identified. Step two would be to bring that issue to the committee. The committee would then assign a work group. Step four. I need a smart board here. Step four would be the work group reviews the issues, make recommendations. Step five, recommendations come back to the full committee. The committee would then approve or disapprove. Once the recommendations are approved, we would then present those to the department, and I guess I'm at step seven. We would then present that to the department. If the department approves it, we would publish it to the website, and it would become effective without need for commission intervention.
Philip Pierce. My first question is do you think the commission is okay with making this change?
The commission will, we can't get it to the commission at this point until we actually have a rule published. And so the commission won't hear it until it comes through this committee. We generally don't take conceptual rule changes to the commission. We would rather wait and have it published rules so they can actually see the language.
Okay. And then the second question that I have is there action that we need to take as a committee on this, or to be able to say, okay, go ahead and proceed forward rather than waiting for us to come back together?
The way the rule is, the agenda item is published is for discussion. We would take a staff initiative to actually publish the rule, because until it's been published, there's nothing really action to take. And so if this discussion, I would not ask for a vote, but I would, I guess, gauge the discussion, the questions, and make a informed decision as to whether or not the board is okay with with that approach. And if that's the case, then we will go ahead and publish the rule and bring it back to you as a published rule.
Informally, I'll tell you that I'm in favor of it. But anybody else?
And
Okay.
given the lack of questions and concerns, I think we would read that as a go-ahead.
I think you could do that. Good, thank you. I think that what you've outlined, I think would work very well for this committee and for the department to be able to move these things so that we can kind of take action more readily as the issues come up, because I mean, we're not in a static world, and we're in a dynamic world, and so sometimes we have to do some things to meet new challenges, and this make it a little bit more streamlined.
Yeah, I think that this process will streamline it in the sense that we have generalized concerns about the commission adopting memorandum as opposed to rules, and so we want to get out of that gray area and just make this transparent that the board is actually making recommendations, and the department is agreeing with those recommendations if they're published, but the commission has not yet weighed in, only to the extent of approving the rulemaking, but not the actual substance of the memorandums.
Okay.
Thank
Everybody
you,
else?
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, very good. Thank you. Thank you for. Okay, and so that brings us then to the report on the tab system.
Sorry. Marcia Godo, Regulatory Program Management and Architectural Barriers Program. So a little bit more details about tabs. On November 1st, we opened it up to pre-register for users and then went live with the program on December 3rd so that they could start registering projects. We have over 1,600 projects registered already, and if customers have issues or questions, they're welcome to email or call us in. We've seen a lot of that happening with questions about where do I find this or how do I upload that. We have trainings coming up starting next week, and then followed by the 6th and the 8th here, specifically on tabs and how it works with the RAS procedures. Do you have any questions regarding tabs? Comments, excitement?
I have a question.
Yes.
Say your name.
Jim Durham.
Mr.
If you, you must accept or decline a job before you actually get to see if they even have the, if they have drawings posted. So you could accept a job and there could be no plans.
Because any user can register a project, that is a possibility. It
Yeah.
could be a tenant or anything like that.
So what do you do with that?
In that case, we expect you to contact either the designer or the owner and say, I need plans in order to continue with this plan review if you accept it at that point. You are not required to accept it. You can decline it based off of that.
Right. Well, I mean, you don't want to do that to somebody. but-
Right.
Okay. All right.
It's the owner's responsibility by law to go and get the plan review and inspection done.
Okay. Well,
Mr. Chairman, if I could.
Yes, ma'am.
Carla James, TDLR. I spoke earlier about how important this project was to us. Marcia, would you tell them about the Go Live Day and y'all's T-shirts? I just think that's a cool story.
A little embarrassing.
No, don't let
We
it
were-
be. It was very fun.
We were pretty excited, and I made the team plus the programmers T-shirts, and it just said tabs go live. 12/3 of 2018. We made it because we finally did finish it and make it, and
Thank you.
it was pretty exciting.
We were just very excited here.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't get one.
I'm sorry.
So you're not part of the team? What's that?
We'll have to talk to Charles afterwards.
You may get a retread.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have a comment for Marcia. Just, Robert Ray Parnell, I just congratulate you and the team. It's a daunting task. It's something that's long overdue. As I used to tell Brian, I'm tired of licking stamps. It's time to get into the 21st century. While I know there's always a bug or two, I think that this is a huge step. I congratulate all your hard work to get this to what it's doing. And I think when we look at the amount of people and the registrations, for whatever reason, I know we're economically healthy in the state of Texas, but I think we're nearing almost 3,000 projects being inputted, coming very close, which is, if you look at the average in the past, and we've been in a healthy economy for quite some time, I think it does speak well to the fact that it is working, and I appreciate minimal licking of stamps for past projects. But it's a delight. One question I had, we had some discussions, I'm just curious to know the capacity of attachments that certainly had been commented on before. With what my limited work in doing it, I'm working with it, and I'm not working against it. It's working for me. Have you had comments about the capacity size?
We've had a couple of comments about it. It was upped to 30 megabytes. We have had some people say, I can't get anywhere close to it, and our programmers have told us that it's possibly the internet on their end, or their internet browser. We recommend Internet Explorer for tabs. It seems to be working the best and causes the least amount of glitches. And to check your internet settings if you can't get it to go, if you can't get it up to 30. We are working with the developers on getting a drop-off site and seeing if we can have that for the larger projects, but that'll be in phase 2 and later.
Well, again, congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely, and it's Philip Pierce again. The other thing too is that you mentioned glitches, and yeah, there's going to be some glitches, but you look back at the old system, and even as long as it was in place, it was a little glitchy, and just licking stamps gets a little glitchy after a while. So by and large, what you've done is a tremendous upgrade, and I think is going to benefit people. And yeah, right now you're being overwhelmed, and we understand that, with people who are going, I don't know how to do this, or I don't know what I'm supposed to do, and that's understandable, but that will kind of level out. And so I'm really looking forward to, as this matures, that it just continues to be beneficial to everybody. So thank you again.
Thank you.
And if I could thank all of our programmers and project management people who are not here, so they're not going to pop my tires. I wanted to thank them. They did a huge amount of work on this under a lot of pressure. I would not change the date as much as they begged me to. So I just want to thank them as well. They were back behind with the shovels putting coal in.
Very good. Thank you, Marcia. Okay, so now we're on item 8, if you've been following along, item I, if you've been following along, which are recommendations for agenda items for the next committee meeting. I think the report back and possible action on the technical memoranda process is probably something that we'll probably want to look at. The legislative session is coming up, and so my understanding is we're probably not going to meet between now and the end of the legislative session.
That's
That it's,
correct.
But that there's just too much volatility in a lot of areas, and so we're probably looking as far away as August before we meet again. And that's fine. I don't think there'll be a problem, but we will probably at that time have a report then on the legislative session and how all of that went and how many new projects that they give to TDLR, since you guys seem to get some new ones almost at every legislative session. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. It tells you that you're doing a good job, and that's a benefit. So those are the two items that I can see on future agendas. Is there anybody else got anything that they want to add?
I've got Brian Sargent, I've got a request, and that is, is it possible for you guys to let us know if there's any legislation that affects this program?
Absolutely.
Related to this program.
Carla
I used
James,
to monitor all
TDLR.
this stuff, but I don't do that anymore.
We
And
have.
It's amazing how much the legislators get personally involved in an issue somewhere that we need to educate them on or something like that, that I wouldn't mind at least hearing about to run some interference if we can.
Sure.
For this program.
We track a lot of bills during session, and we keep our list of bills out on our website. It's already out there for y'all to look at. And we update that every week. So anything that affects one of our 39 programs or could affect, we put on our list, and we'll send y'all the link so you can get to it quick. But that's what our commission sees, that's what we track, so we're providing the same information to everybody that we do to our commission.
Anything else? Okay, and so under item J, the discussion of date, time, and location, it's really kind of a TBA, I think, because right now I don't think that that you guys know kind of what your schedule's going to be like, so even tentative dates are probably not a worthwhile effort for us to try to do. So, just kind of let you know that we're not going to try to set anything in stone, but what we'll have to do is just let everybody know as time goes along and try to come to a consensus on a date at the future, but probably it'd be in the August timeframe.
And we'll get to you with some tentative dates for y'all to start looking at your calendars.
Okay. Is everybody good with that? All right. How about item K, adjournment? Do I hear a motion? And be sure and say your name.
Mike Olson, so moved.
John Rickard, second.
All right. The motion's been made and seconded, or is there any discussion? I didn't think so. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, we are adjourned.